Welcome to Sneaker University, the one place where you can learn the entire process of sneaker design from scratch. 10 steps from thumbnail sketching, engineering, CAD development and rendering for presentation, outsole design and drafting, and spec and pattern construction drawing preparation, to pullovers and prototype perfecting, and production sample confirmation, including every other step and stage in between. Learn from a pro. I'm Cyrus L. I perfected this process over the span of my career in the footwear industry, with over 10 million pairs of kicks sold, hundreds of designs created and produced. I came into the industry as one of the top artists in the country, and I learned to parlay my artistic ability into pure industrial design and engineering, and quickly earned a name as a great designer working with endorsed athletes as the director of basketball and cross-training at one of the major brands. And now, well established with my own brands, you can learn this lost process from the best in the industry. Let's go. Class is in session. So this first episode, we're going to get into thumbnail drawing. Thumbnails, quick sketching, thumb sketches, the sketching process. Really, this is the first step in the heart and soul of any real, true sneaker design. Let me put you on game. This is a part of the patented process that I actually use. And man, it works very, very effectively. In order to, galvanize the main idea of any shoe, I always say, like I said, it's literally like the heart, the soul of a shoe. It comes out in this stage. You'll get the main idea if done right. The general concept should kind of snap to when you're done with this process if you do it properly. Your color blocking is established in this very first really early, kind of sloppy stage. And all of the rest of the shoe expands once you get that sole in place, and you can always tell when it clicks. So I'm going to show you how to do this fast and be effective and efficient in the process. And throughout the rest of the season, we're going to get into the other steps. But the first and the foundation of the design process is the thumbnail sketching. Next episode, we're going to get into engineering. It's an 11-step process from engineering down to production confirmation. So let's start off with the terminology that you'll need. I'm going to make you an expert over 6 months in this process. And the first thing you want to know are the proper names, the terminology that's used in sneaker design. And so let's go over that first. And I'm going to use, as an example, this is a call-out sheet from a Giza alumni shoe. And we'll use that. It's a basic, for sneakers, you can have more complicated shoes and you have basic shoes. I'm going to start off with a basic shoe that has, this has 17 parts in total. A very complicated shoe, like a performance basketball shoe, might have upwards of like 45 to 50 parts. Is not abnormal when you're doing more of a tech shoe, depending on the construction. So here you have the outsole. In this case, this is a very simple cup sole. You have welt stitching that actually holds the outsole to the upper. A vamp. This shoe doesn't have a toe cap on it. Then you have your quarter panel, eye stay, counter panel, collar, your tongue, main lining, and there should be usually there's a tongue lining as well. This simple shoe doesn't have a tongue lining on it. Quarter perforations, which are the holes, or they're called perfs, could land in any number of positions on a shoe. A lot of times on a vamp. You have your laces, tongue logo, collar logo, and for a little bit more of a complex shoe, I'm going to use next the Mach 1. Mach 1 is a running shoe that I designed for Fila. It's actually a little bit more complex. This is probably has about 35 parts to it, but the parts are different. It actually has, in this one you can see the outsole, midsole, right? And this midsole has a stabilizer and an arch, right, with a little, porthole that goes through from one side to the other. It's got a molded heel counter, and then there's your toe cap, right? Your upper pattern toe cap, because there's an outsole toe cap, as well as on this one you can see the outsole toe cap is a little lip that wraps up, a little wrap up toe cap. Vamp. There's your quarter panel overlay, or actually it's an eye stay overlay. Quarter panel overlay / eye stay. I would call this one an eye stay only because it's connected to your eyelids. There's your eye stay underlay, right? Overlay, underlay, or it depends on how the panel sits on the rest of the shoe. They're your eyelets. This is also a quarter overlay, sweep in this case, or vector, or what a lot of times what companies have that go across the side of shoes. We're going to get into vectors in one of the future episodes. They're a very, very important element in a good shoe. Here you have your metatarsal head on a Mach 1. The metatarsal head actually kind of pulls on your, your metatarsals, or AKA the ball of your foot. This one has a collar underlay as well as a collar overlay. Here's your tongue lining, main lining, collar logo, tongue logo, laces, and at the end of every lace you got this little thing called an aglet. Additionally, other parts, on the eyelets of sneakers that like boots usually will have this. There's a part called a grommet. Rivets, or anything that metal pieces that are actually kind of attached to the shoe, they're called rivets. And then of course, one of the really important things you need to know is that there are two sides to every shoe. The outside of the shoe is called the lateral side, and the inside of your shoe is called the medial side. When it comes to thumbnails, you can pretty much use a lot of different formats. For those that are used to a hard copy or hardcover sketch pad, maybe your standard black hardcover sketch pad, or notebook, sketchbook. But what I recommend is to use regular copier paper. Copier paper and a pen, you always have access to that. You may be overseas in a hotel. Like I said, you left your notepad, you don't have whatever materials, you don't get jammed. You can always find a pen, and you can always find some copy paper. So let's get into that basic process. So I always like to use basic materials. You have your basic 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. If you're overseas in a hotel, you can always ask in other countries. China, they call this A2 paper. 2 sheets of paper, light board, basic pen, right? Multicolor, so I can switch out as I'm doing my sketching. Regular pen, drafting pencil, which I probably won't be using very much. I don't use a pencil very much when I'm sketching. Markers, black and red, so I can do some general color blocking. I have a couple additional markers for different size, in case I'm going to detail out a logo or something like that. Rolling ruler, and a real small, I like a small drafting ruler just in case, for details, all right? And first thing that you want to do, the technique that I use, is mark your page. Stay organized, mark your page. I do it like this, quick line across the top, date, time, project, name, company. This one I'm going to use the example Sneaker University. Episode 1, thumbnails. It's 5/23. 23, those are good numbers. And I'm actually, for this sketch example, thumbnail example, I'm going to use the APU simulator, which is a fairly tall shoe. It's like we used to call it high tops. They don't even really make high tops like that anymore, so I want to keep that in consideration with the spacing of my page. So generally, I've always tried to use 3 thumbnails across the top, 6 on a page, right? So you lay that out accordingly. I'm gonna bring my ruler down here. Look for the ground plane. The first line you want to draw when you're doing your thumbnail sketching the ground plane. I'm gonna bring the ground plane down a little lower so I can get a nice high top space in there. All right, so I'm bringing it across like that. I'm gonna be working in this first third of the top of the page. So I'm gonna bring my ground plane just like that. Boom, that's your first line that you lay. Generally, when I'm sketching, I would like, I usually try to get that back line first. So I'll come to the edge of this line, and I'll bring it flat plane like that. You want to get a nice angle. And then in here, you're looking for, maybe add the toe lift on there next. You want to give yourself enough spacing for the toe lift. Boom, like that. And then you're looking for what's called the basically this hook in the top of the shoe. Right, so put my tongue there like that. And it's called ball girth. Bring it down like that. It's a thumbnail, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You got plenty of time later to fix it. So on the APU, what I'm actually looking for is the bottom of the last next. I'm gonna go right underneath the ball of the foot, which I want to sit about that much off the ground, right? I'm gonna go underneath the ball of the foot, and then I can get my heel like that. That's the second Cyrus always looks for, right? And I can bring that across there like that. These are just generally guidelines. This is your first thumbnail, so guidelines are important so you can get kind of a general shape. Again, on the APU simulator, I'm gonna bring the heel around like that, like so. Give me a nice S shape. Going up the counter to the collar. Top line on the APU will be next. Top line is kind of about here. I had a nice, really tall tongue on the APU, so I'm gonna put the tip of my tongue right there. Bring her back. All right. And increase the lighting on my thing here. Let's see my drawing that I'm actually working for my reference. All right. So on the APU simulator, bring the toe cap down around like this. And the way that it's set up, I got a midsole section that comes down on the heel. A little outrigger comes up like so. Sits pretty much on the ball of the foot. Toe cap. Heel roll, sets it up nicely for the heel counter, the midsole and the heel, kind of does something like that. My outsole across. Boom. And then the APU simulator's got a pretty wild midsole line, which is kind of like rolls, comes up to here. Pretty even roll. Catch that angle right there. And then you get the, see, just above the top line of the midsole. Stuff like this. Place my LCD. The APU simulator was a shoe I designed for a company that had the patent for GPS location devices in shoes. So it has a device that has an LCD ring on it, pretty much below the ankle, like that. And this is all stabilizer. It's got a pretty cool stabilizer that comes pretty high, and that'll allow me to connect this line here, which is where the midsole meets the stabilizer. Stabilizer comes down like that. All right. Then next part I'll add on is my strap, 4-foot strap. Top strap. And then you got the ankle strap on there, almost pretty much straight across. I'll do a little bit of exaggeration to make it how it was supposed to be ideally. And you got your text box right here at the top. And can do, because this is the first sketch, this is actually perfect, because now I got some general indications in place of where stuff is set at. This is not a perfect sketch. It's kind of like, you know, it has some of the main components. What else did I have on it? I got a little flying, it's like a rudder on the back, counter near the pull tab. Throw a pull tab on there, like so. Fit into the space. I could probably get 3 of these across. As I switch to my light box, get it fired up here. So if I was to switch this over and do a secondary page, I'm going to show you how to do overlays. Part of my technique is using overlays. I could actually easily fit 1, 2, 3 across, right? So I'm going to go ahead and label this one in red, right? This is sketch number 1. Okay? Then when I switch to sketch number 2, do the same thing. Make sure to mark down the information across the top. You can be as detailed as you want about this. You can even, like, really technically, you can number the pages. I feel like if you number shoes, and you cover, you're organized enough. You know, numbering the shoes actually helps keep track of each generation. Thumbnails, spelled it wrong. Thumbnails. Same day, 5/23/23. Maybe you want it even, right? For those that are not, I got it down. I don't have to do this all the time. But see, I'll slide my paper across here a little bit. You can take a drafting dot. I'm using the most basic materials for this first example. Regular roll of Scotch tape. And you can tack it down in a couple of places. Actually, to keep the page kind of leveraged, you usually want to tape in 2 spots. I'll do that so you can follow along. Keeps the page from sliding, because when you as you are making overlays, the last thing you want to do is have your overlay actually slide on you. I'm gonna use my rolling rule so I don't get my thumb caught under the small one. Boom, round line. This time I'm gonna use my pen to change the part colors, and I'm gonna go with blue for the upper. Let's go green for the stabilizer midsole component. And red for the outsole pieces. So I wanted to straighten my stabilizer out a little bit here, a little bit more. There's a little bit better spacing. I think the way the original one too also came back a little further like that. Do an infinite number of things in terms of adjusting. Should have just made the stabilizer green. Could have just made the stabilizer green. So your outsole in red here. Another detail. Add this little flex notch in the outsole. Color separation. Midsole, outsole, and red. And I also had a shoulder line on the midsole. Add that in there. Other than that, it's like pretty much tracing it. The original sketch layer. This being sketch number 2. You can also, once you get the shape of the shoe that you're sketching, you get, say for instance, you get like a nice shape that you like, or you get an outsole component, the outsole, the way you sketch it is just perfect, and you want to make sure you maintain that instead of drawing it over and over. I'm going to show you how. You take it to a Xerox machine, copy it, and you can kind of make as many copies as you want and lay it down, so that way you don't even have to waste time redrawing the same outsole. If you like the shape that the outsole has, you can just leave the areas plain where you want to try to figure out what other additional details. Let me make that red. And you fill in those things as you sketch further, and you leave the parts that you like the way that they are, and you don't have to redraw it over. Again, the purpose of one of the things about thumbnailing is that you get to work quickly. When you draw big, it might take you 30 minutes to finish a complete upper drawing, even in a fast kind of a sketch format. But when you're working with a thumbnail, you can easily get one sketch done, a whole shoot done in 5 minutes. So if you do the math, you get to do a lot more ideas. You get a lot more ideas out by thumbnailing than you do by doing large drawings. Large drawings will become exhausting after a while. Spending a half hour on the shoot. You get halfway through it and you realize you messed up a part that you know what you want to fix. You're not going to get around to adding that new thought onto the page for another half hour. With thumbnail sketching, 5 minutes later, you're adding the ideas as they come to you. It's much, and that is cumulative, meaning it adds up after a while. Good ideas, more good ideas get applied to each design per hour by thumbnailing than it does by doing large-scale drawing. Put this box here. I might put me a light on this bad boy, which it did have. Actually had a little armature on it. There was a microphone arm that came off this shoe. Kind of went like this. This shoe was designed so that you wear it, and because the GPS location devices on shoes not such a cool idea. Who wants to have a shoe that tracks you around? But if you can it works in conjunction with your cell phone and video console, something like that. Back in the day when they had the little video console, they had the Game Boys and whatnot. If this could help your play by, I created a game called Skateboard Lords, where as you actually skated in real life, the shoe would track your skating progress, and essentially it would accumulate points that you could use to power yourself through a virtual game. So it was pretty cool. So you needed the microphone on here for some speech enhancement to work in conjunction with the rest of your hardware. Strap back on there, so you kind of get the gist of how this works. Next, I'm gonna do some color blocking on this next version, on this second sketch. How did the top of my eye stay kind of like that? Top line down like that. It must have been a internal collar. Must have did something like that. Boom. I'm gonna put a little kink on there like that this time. Eye stay. I'm trying to remember how I did the eye stay. I think the eye stay has something that swung out like this. Came down. Add that on there. So now I'm able to pull from the original sketch. I don't gotta think about it as much. I can add on. Right? And this, of course, would be sketch number 2. I can throw that on there whenever I want. Right? Mark them while you're working. Keeps everything nice and organized. You go back and you sketched out, you blacked out and you sketched for 2 hours and you got 100 sketch, you got 15, 20 sketches. You might forget what order that you sketched them in. And anytime you think of it while you're drawing, put that another sketch number on. So now I'm going to take this one off, and I'll tell you why I like to fold these little edges around here. These make for nice tabs when you tape on again. The tape won't tear the paper if you tape over another piece of tape. So I got 2 sketches here. I'm going to take this piece of scrap paper, right, a junk piece of paper that I use as a bottom, as a color block, right, and that will help protect this bottom page from this page as you ink it, right? And as I block this, I may block out block the whole shoe out, because the APU really didn't have, other than this light here, didn't have a lot of color blocking on the pattern. It was mainly the outsole that had a different color. Light for a minute so I can see nice and clear. Leave this light on. And that, even the stabilizer. Color blocking red, and it gives you a rough idea how color will take to this. You know, how does the shoe? How did you intend for the shoe to take color while you, you know, it's thumbnailing is the soul of sneaker design. It's just where the soul of the shoe comes to life in the thumbnail, right? It needs to have a rough idea right out of the gate of how was it intended to be colored. You may discover other colorways as I'm going to show you is when we get to the color portion of this process. You may discover some color combinations that you didn't even realize were there when you were creating it, but you always want to approach sneaker design from that consideration from the very beginning. How is this thing meant to take color? We were talking on a sneaker design forum a couple of weeks ago. For those that you get a chance to look up the Sneaker Design Forum on Instagram or on Twitter. The entire discussions are on Clubhouse. Sneaker Design Forum 2023. And Robert Nichols, aka Bobby Fresh, was talking about using gestures to start off a sneaker design. That's pretty much the same thought. When you're doing a design initially, you should have a rough idea of how it's actually supposed to work color-wise. You don't want to, while you're doing colorways, trying to figure out how to add a stripe across the top of the shoe when it wasn't intended to have that. You know, and this is how it starts. I left out something very important, actually. So I missed it on the first thumbnail, but actually this should go from the very beginning of the sketching process. You want to begin to take considerations for the outsole, and if you're really serious, if the shoe is you want it to be a banger, you want to take that same consideration for the bottom view that I'm going to place over here. You can do the side view. The toe view of the shoe is arguably one of the most important viewpoints of the shoe, of any sneaker. As you purchase a pair of shoes, you put them on, what do? You look for them toe down. So I'm going to go ahead right over here, and as a reminder, show that you want to take that outsole consideration. I do not recall how the bottom of the APU simulator looked. I'd have to go and grab the prototype to see. So I'm gonna just very quickly kind of sketch out. And when same way as if you do this on your first sketch, when you go to do the overlay, you got a nice outline for you to work in, so you can begin to slice and dice then. Don't wait until you get to your outsole drawings, and now you're trying to work out what you want to do graphically and texture-wise with your outsole. You're gonna be forever at that point because you didn't put any. It doesn't have any thought. You need to have thoughts connected from the earliest possible stage for the outsole. So I'll say also, even over here, I'll do a little thumbnail of the. Let me grab a ruler here again. Actually, maybe I'll put it over here because it's kind of tall. Since when you add more views, you're probably going to get less thumbnail space per page, but it's still all good because at least most of the work is done. When you get to the point where you're doing your pattern construction drawings, use my blue to give me a nice center line here. You don't want to be trying to decide what your counter is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have figured out the counter design from the point of actually doing the thumbnail sketches. Let me give this guy a nice shape. I know that since it's a taller shoe, it's probably going to do something like that. Give myself enough space. So the tongue's probably going to look like that. Right, there's the collar, general collar. I'll work all the other details out about how it actually looks as I go along further. But I know this thing has the stabilizer. The stabilizer is like that. That's the way it'll look from the back. pulls up like that. Probably on the side of the shoe like that. It's off. I can fix it on the next round. It's got a little bit of a lift in the heel. Like that. Probably too much. So you do your heel view. Same thing. Work out all of the details. Where the stuff sit at. You know what I mean? Where's left? This is the lateral side. Maybe the device box sits out like this. Remember, it had a conical type of a part with an LCD box on it like this. Okay, again, go over now. This will say you can name them heel view, bottom view. No need to name it. It's obvious what it is. And you go over here. You do your toe view, plan view of the toe. Right? Why wait? Why wait to figure it out? I remember when I was first learning, I would wait until I was doing actual construction drawings and figure out, well, how does it look from this point of view? Why wait when you can actually design it in the process early on? This bad boy has that strap that goes across the top. Pretty much like that. And the youth road is probably in here somewhere. Switch the green. That, and you work out all those details, right? Outriggers, a little outrigger over here. There's another one coming on the medial side, right? Sketch number 2, and that process continues. So you use your black marker. Now you can use your black marker to come in blocking and catch a couple of detail areas. So I'm gonna bring out the outsole, which in the APU's case I didn't intend to use. Well, actually you can use color on that piece, but I'm gonna call it the stabilizer with my black against the red, just to add that, you know, tertiary color. I could call out this hardware piece here. I probably won't. I like how it looks. You know, my instincts immediately are telling me I like how it looks, just with the little touches. I'll hit the toe cap, outsole toe cap, that is, like that. Boom. All right. And then, you know, I didn't mark my underpage by having this little slip page in there. So let me also, I'm gonna show you a technique. Go grab me another sheet of paper. Right? Matter of fact, I'm gonna grab a couple. I'm gonna show you a technique. If sketching is the idea of sketching this way is to be efficient and fluid, not fluent, while in the thought process, right, coming up with ideas. Then another way that you can kind of speed up your ability to work quickly works like this. Cut my light box on. Let me cut it off first. I'll start with, this time, just a plain sheet of paper. And I'm gonna drop up in the corner. Move this guy out of the way too. I'm gonna do these I would call setups, right? I'm gonna make a little setup for a low top shoe. So I get my ground plane. Catch the heel angle. From there, you can kind of figure out where the toe lift is going to be. If it's a low tops generally have a wider top line. See how good my instincts are here. Ball girth angle, like that. Not bad for a thumbnail sketch. Just a setup, you know. And when you do these, you don't want to limit yourself too much. So I'm not going to call the counter. I'm not going to describe anything with the collar or the tongue. But what I will do is display also a very general outsole shape. All right, something like that. Catch it one time real good. What I plan to do is take this, throw it on a Xerox machine. I could lay my plan view of the toe right here. Instead, I'll put it down here to give me, I could probably, so I could maybe fit 40s on the page is what I'm thinking. So if I, break the page into quadrants, I got a little bit of space down here where I can play around. So I'm gonna put my plan view. Very general. I'm not gonna put anything, don't put anything, any ideas, any spaces. Just use to create the shape. Do it nice and neatly. Actually, my ruler is slipping a little bit. I will go to about here. Matter of fact, I could probably do here. Go a little ground plane for my, matter of fact, yeah, I'm gonna hover my last generally about the space that a heel would sit off of the ground. So leave yourself enough midsole, whether it be a cup, it might be a EVA midsole or not. Put a little space here at the top. This is a generic form setup for the back of the shoe. Remember, this is a low top. I'm not gonna draw the top line because there's any couple of ways I can put a top line in there. All right, so setup number one, put that to the side, take another sheet of paper, and go to my original drawing of this APU simulator. And got the lamp on here, light table. Do something similar. I'm gonna do a, let's say I like the outsole, but I want to leave the upper open. So I'm gonna do a setup where I trace the outsole the way I had it on the last drawing. Keep it somewhat general so you get the idea of what I'm doing here. I'll put my ground plane on later, but I can see my ground plane from the last sketch. I'll draw from there. Boom, no ruler. Arch. I can see a little bit that the, let's say the stabilizer did like this. My table's shaking. I didn't use tape like you want to maybe tape it down. I know how to keep the page from moving from doing this for years. Could have added a little tape to make sure that I get it exact. I'm actually should have used tape. Toe lift. See my toe cap underneath there. Outrigger. So what I'm doing is I'm rebuilding the outsole without the upper. Little ramps on there. Where's my midsole line? I think I missed the midsole line. Yeah, sure did. What did I do here? I added something into the midsole. This is really gonna do a slight alteration to the midsole, like that. And then what I do for the rest is just general, same way I did with the low top form. General. So I get the general shape. Actually, with thumbnails, you can get anal with it, and you'll see when we go through the large size sketches. I call large size. I actually mean actual size. Like if you took a size 9 shoe and you set it on the page, and when we get into the next stage, we'll be drawing at that size. So all of these details, there'll be room. And you'll have to exactly space things out down to the stitch lines. But here I'm just going to use a general top line like that. I may do something like this. This is the mark where the top of the tongue is at. And then I'll catch these forms again over here. Actually, I'm going to do the outsole. I'm going to reposition the back view. Actually, I could have bumped this as I was laying this one out. If I was thinking about it, I should have moved the outsole a little closer. There's some wasted space here. But what I will do, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm gonna leave this side view right here. Since I didn't tighten it up, I might as well just. It'll be less views per page of these setups, but you'll see it's about efficiency. Once I do this one time, right, I don't have to draw this over again. And then now I can really quickly sketch out more ideas without having to do what I just did here. Redrawing this, which took me, what did it take me about 3 minutes on a low top and about 4 minutes on this high top APU. And rebuilding the outsole pretty much the way that I had it, but I left the upper more blank, right? Same thing on the plan view. Upper is plain, the outsole has a little bit of detail on it. All right, so that's second one. And let me do one more just for good measure. All right, so we're gonna use the same. You know what? We'll just leave it like that actually. So I'm gonna take these. So when you're working in a firm, working for a larger brand, you know, just like anything else, you're on a schedule and time becomes of the essence. So you need to be able to work quickly. So based off of what I just put together, those setups, you could take a simple setup like this and using a copier, you know, you can see how I've actually duplicated and placed 4 of them on the page. I even left the space where you can add information if you're using this setup for multiple dates to create multiple setups. So now if you're sketching, you know, these are just copies of the same thing. So now if I'm sketching off of one of these, I can move much more quickly. You know, I just take this one setup, and I even was able to spare your original if you want to keep your original for something else. You know, I got setups now I can jump from one to another, and the ideas really begin to flow that way. And you know, same way I did that with that setup. If you have a component, I can save the original again, take it. These are smaller. I had to actually take this and reduce it at 90%, you know, so I could fit 2 on a page, right, with all of the parts that I have for my setup. Take this one, you know, master page, and I can make multiple duplicates, you know what I mean? So now, you know, I can just work quickly. I don't have to redraw all this over again when I know that I want to keep this particular detail. That I use the outsole on the APU as an example. Even that format can be used when you are working on colorways. Now, if you want to kind of get a feel for how you want to do the color, you know, we did where's my original thumbnail, right? If I block this original one this way, right, pretty much this was the first sketch. I didn't, you know, I could have easily taken the second sketch before I colored on it and made multiple copies so I could actually see, but this one was pretty close to the second anyway. So I took that, made copies, set it up the same way, right? Take 4 of them and you put them on a page, and now you're moving much faster. It might take you 4 or 5 minutes to do a setup like this, and then you can just shoot off 10 or however many of these you need. Now your thumbnail sketching, you don't got to worry about redrawing all over again to get a feel for the color afterwards. Again, efficiency is critical during this process. And you know, the same way, going back to one of these guys, you get one of my earlier sketches, you know, as you're working along, you can number. This will be 2, 3, 4, right? 5. The whole system is the same. You fill it out there. So that's the process when you're working on a thumbnail sketch. Those are all the steps that I utilize, mechanical steps. You know, how to draw it, what tools to use, how to use your light box and color block. In real time, when you're creating a shoe, you know, actually after, you know, it's an early step in the process, but it does come after you do thorough market research and you get all of your influence together, you know, inspiration. You know, if you do your merchandising, if you're at that point where you're doing your own merchandising and you set your schedule, and then you sit down, you have all your ideas together. I'm going to show you what that looks like. It actually entails a lot of thought. Thumbnailing, ultimately, at the end of the day, the reason why you want it to be so fluid and you want to be able to work quickly, because you want to be able to think. You think quickly. Ideas actually have a tendency to come in quickly. Although a solid thumbnail sketch might take up to about a week, you know, a few days to a week to complete, I can actually sit down if I'm energized and I got enough ideas, and I can box in a great shoe concept in a day. but that's a little unusual. If I'm tired, if I did a bunch of shoes, it might take a few days to kind of work out the mechanics and basically to accumulate the thoughts. So I'm going to use the custom collabo Renaissance as an example here. These are the actual sketch thumbnails from the Renaissance, which was designed in 2012. And the Renaissance was a very influential shoe. This is, before Henderscheme, before Buscemi. I believe a lot of the industry was influenced by the development of the Renaissance. But it started off as this thought about wanting to make the ultimate shoe, an athletic and casual, hybrid, a little bit more athletic than casual. I was analyzing the market, looking at the influencers, both in personalities as well as footwear, and I began to chop the shoe down into the major components, including toe down, eye stay, and outsole, top line. Top line is actually the silhouette, the top portion of the silhouette of a shoe. So the shape the shoe takes from the top, from generally the collar up across to the eye stay, including the tongue. That's called the top line. So I wanted to have the top line, top eye stay, top lacing system, top outsole, sidewall, pull tab, of all shoes. And I actually examined the competitors out of the market, the classics, the top shoe, when you look at it from the top down. And I actually began to I had enough when I first began to sketch the Renaissance. I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to try to fuse together. The only thing that was in the Renaissance early on when I started to sketch was I knew that I wanted to have a wing on the side, this little icon wing. I wasn't sure how it would be made, where it would sit or look like, but I knew I wanted to have a little wing on there. And as you look at the sketches, you can see as I'm thinking, I'm accumulating the thought for, the top line, and I'm trying to figure out the quarter panel. Ultimately, I end up going with this puffed eye stay, kind of late in the process. And you can see as the tongue begins to evolve and come together, I add in like a beautiful vegetable tan leather, and that was the influence from both of those brands that I named. I was actually influenced by Louis Vuitton. I wanted to bring flavor, and again, this is 2012. This is before Louis went absolutely crazy out in the world in terms of, even further popularity. I wanted to have that element on the shoe, and I decided to add it in a couple of areas. And then I'm just wrestling with the tongue and the counter. And one of the last things to come together on this design is the pull tab assembly, the chain that goes on the back of the Renaissance. And then boom, it was there. So, you want to write down while you're sketching. It's always good to not only number, but write down as much the ideas that I want to, whether it be the material that you're using or how a certain component might come together in this process, So that's the secret sauce, a great thumbnail, how to develop a great thumbnail, which is the soul of any awesome sneaker product. You want to practice that, practice makes perfect. The more times that you utilize it, you'll see what I'm saying. Let yourself warm up. Wait, look for that feeling when you begin to kind of warm up, and it comes from proper research, allowing yourself. Usually, I would say it's usually around that. Could happen at the 5th sketch. Sometimes it's the 10th sketch that you just hit that warm, that kind of hot spot where you're like, I'm warmed up, and then the ideas just begin to flow. And all you got to do is just catch them in the bottle. You got to be working fast enough. You got to be fluid enough. So thumbnails over actual size drawings all day. This is coming from a vet. Next episode, we're going to get into engineering. That's the part that, happens. So now you got this great idea, and it's kind of, it's a fresh idea. Now you got to work out the details of how to make it actually happen. You got to bring it down to the nuts and bolts. So although the essence of the design is there, you still got to figure out how do you make it look like that now. And you have to begin to figure out where stuff goes. And we're going to go into that in engineering. Episode 3 is CAD development. And we're going to go into color creation, outsole development, outsole drafting, pattern construction, specification sheets, which pattern construction and specification sheets are the essence of your tech pack, including the outsole drafting. Factory communication. Once you get to tech pack, the classic way to communicate with the factory. Pullover corrections, which is so critical. And then production confirmation, what to look out for. So stay tuned. We'll see you on the next episode. So in closing, I'm really excited that I'm able to share this lost process. What I'm trying to share with you is very rare. I learned it in the 90s. It's the entire process of sneaker design, which it's intended to empower designers, sneaker designers, and really strengthen the industry. There's been this thing that began to happen right after I was taught this process that I'm going to share with you and share with the world, really. Where I was trained from the thumbnail sketch to confirmation sample and everything in between. Somehow the industry began to break this process down into different steps, from 2 to 5 people working on the shoe and no one knowing the entire process. And in that way, it kind of takes the power away from the designer, and it basically, the companies actually hold the controls. And me personally, I feel like it's not right, because sneaker culture essentially was created by sneaker enthusiasts. It wasn't created necessarily by the companies. And so the sneaker industry is enjoyed by enthusiasts. And the sneaker fanatics, sneaker freaks, whatever we call them, should be able to enjoy the best that the industry can offer. And that's why I'm showing this process. And I would also say that this again, we're talking about the 90s. And so it's a classic process. It's very hands-on, learning how to do the basic things that are important, like drawing and knowing what a last is, understanding what a pullover is, knowing how to do your own drafting. Draft the older way, then the newer way. I'm going to show you how to draft on the computer, but I would encourage you to learn how to draft by hand, the classic way. Because there are a lot of tools that are coming out now that allow things to get done quicker, but quicker is definitely not better. It's always better. The essence of what I'm trying to show, it shows how to accumulate thought. And thought only happens at a certain speed. You got to be able to sleep on it, get rest, and you come after you start an idea one day, and then you'd be surprised when you sleep on it, you wake up the next day, that idea grows and it evolves. And the true awesome design and creation are ideas that are allowed to grow properly. Give them a little light and a little bit of water, and then it creates itself. And that doesn't happen quick. There are tools that can move quick. Okay, great. When you have your idea down, now I want to quickly get it out there. But you can't rush ideas. The mind doesn't work like that. The mind, and a great idea, give it that 2 weeks, man. Give it a month to work out all of the details. Actually, there's a 3-month period. If the sneaker industry is divided into 4 seasons, including the 2 main ones, spring and fall, which actually complete between February and August, right? Those are the termination periods. That's Fashion Week, right? February and August of every year. In between there, you got 3 months that's set aside for actually the design creation. And that's 3 months for you to cure your design. And, maybe 2 weeks of that is thumb shopping, 2 weeks is thumbnail, 2 weeks is engineering, and maybe another week to finalize your CADs and play around with colors. And then when you get done with that, it's about halfway into that, maybe 1 or 1.5 months into that 3-month period where you're supposed to be developing the shoes the real way, the classic way. Then you got another 1.5 months to work your specs out. There's no need to rush it. The only thing that happens when you rush ideas is you get garbage. That's me. I'm out. Cyrus L. See you next 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks.